And we are live. Super progressive. What is good? What is good? What is good? We are here. We're ready to rock. And man, you guys already know because I've been hyping it up, but we're so stoked for our guest today. And I'll do an intro in a second, but first how we like to start out is a little sound test. Can we get a little sound check, chat? Sound check. Sound check, sound check, sound check. Ben, would you like to say something into the mic and give a little sound check?
Yeah, sure. I can say sound check too.
Awesome.
I will follow.
Sound check. Hey, chat, if you can let us know that you hear us, that would be amazing. Sound okay? We hear you.
Cool.
Wow. What's up, everyone? Viewers around the world, where are you guys calling from? We're just gonna wait a few moments before we dive into the interview so everyone can join. Where are you guys all calling from? It's so funny, these first few moments of going live when people come flooding in and you're like, oh my God, it's so exciting.
Yeah, it's starting. I'm gonna share.
All right, we are. Oh. Mogans, man, welcome. Denmark, first viewer from Denmark. London. Vin P, what's up, man? Thanks so much for joining. Belgium, represent.
Cool.
Oh, Jurassic Trance, what's up, my man? It's so cool because you get to like become friends with the people that tune in every week, and I've actually met Jurassic Trance at a few gigs. He's a great guy. UK, Norway. Oh my gosh, Ben, I've never had this many viewers at the beginning of a stream before.
Cool. I can't see them, but welcome.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
No, this is great. All right. Wow, yeah, people are flooding in. Let's get started. I'm gonna warm up for that standard super progressive live stream. What is up, everyone? What is up? So stoked to have you. We've been on this producer ripper. 2 weeks ago we had Nick Muir. Last week we had Justin Scott Dixon, aka Voyager. And this week, oh my gosh, this week we have a legend on the stream. I would like to welcome Polder himself. How are you doing, bro?
I'm super cool, so super good. Yeah, I'm very good actually. Super good might be a bit too, but I'm really happy to be there with you, and thanks a lot for the invitation on your show. So yeah, it's a pleasure.
Dude, super good on super progressive. That's not that bad. But yeah. So where are you based these days? Where are you calling from?
So right now I'm in my place, so I'm not in the studio at that time. So we're just moving to Waterloo, which is super close to Brussels. So it's Belgium, but like 10 kilometers from Brussels.
Oh man, that is awesome. And okay, one thing how often are you headed to the studio? Are you in the studio every day?
No, not like before actually, which is too bad, but things change. And I used to have my own studio for many years in Brussels. So this is where we did most of the tracks for Bedrock and most of my production till 2012, something like that. Then I work a lot in my place, going to different studio, and now I'm working in a studio very close to here actually, owned by Kid Cream, who is a very famous house producer, made big hits on Defected and work a lot with Junior Jack. And he's got a very beautiful studio, so I'm going there, but not every day, unfortunately. But
No, that's cool. Wow, I didn't even know that. That's so awesome to learn. And so normally, normally we kick off these interviews with going back to the beginning. But when I put out a little poll about what questions the followers of the page wanted to ask, there was one question that came in more than any other question. So we'll start with that. And that question is, how do you come up with the name Polder?
Okay. I keep answering this since since day one, but okay. Well, it's what I remember is that when I had to find a name, I had a project when I started Polder, which was called Rugged Life, and it was a bit more trance, but already with the kind of flavor I would do in the future. And so I started this project, and I was looking for a new name, and I wanted to come up with something which is like a combination of two words, and the combination sounds like a real name. So I was in my studio and I was thinking, okay, I've got to find like a first name and last name. And then I was looking at my sampler, and actually, I've got my folder with my samples. I've got the Pol filter on my sampler, Pol folder. So things went very quickly, and I thought, okay, this sounds cool. So I'm gonna keep this.
Dude, it's awesome because I think it does sound cool because I like hear your name once on tracks and I remember it forever. So it's awesome.
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny because after that, I realized that there was also a very famous Belgian artist, which is called Ozark Henry, and he did also the same because he took his name from the Mount Ozark, and I mean it's like abstract combination, and but for the funny story, when we signed the first release, which on Bedrock. Because my partner was called CP, so John said, "Do you want to call yourself PF?" And I said, "No, I want to keep Polder." And that was a clever decision because today, if you want to make a name with two letters, it's a nightmare. So Cedric is struggling a lot with CP only because if he wants to find back his records, it's a total disaster. So I stick to Polder, and it was a clever decision, I think.
It's so funny that John asked you that, because one thing I learned in researching that before he went by John Digweed, he was DJ JD, which seems like a very classic.
But a lot of DJs were at that time. They were all playing with initials. Like this was the very, very, very common.
Yeah, no.
CP is for Cedric Piret, and I've got many friends in Belgium here who had that kind of artist name or DJ name with just the two initials. But yeah,
no.
So I stick to Polder.
I mean, everyone in the chat right now, I know you can't necessarily see, but they say, awesome name, nice, it's a great name, classic name. So you made a right choice, man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's get into it because I am so curious. I have so many questions. But, how I like to start these is it's very rare that as a musician, as a music lover, we immediately love underground dance music. Normally, there's music that comes before that we fall in love with that maybe even down the road, influences our productions a little bit. So my first question for you is, growing up in Belgium, what were some of your first musical influences?
To try to make the story short, my brother is older, is 7 years older than me, and he was a trumpet player. So I started trumpet also when I was in the age to hold it in my hand. So I started the music school. I was 5 years old, something like this, more or less. And so for years and years, I had a very classical training with a classical composer. I was playing in a symphonic orchestra, a jazz combo, and stuff like that. So everything, but not going really after 1950, something like that. My parents were not really into electronic music or rock and roll music, so I can't say stories like my father was playing a vinyl of the Rolling Stones. No, no, no. My father would play vinyls of Louis Armstrong or those trumpet guys, but so I was not really connected to the electronic music scene, and I think the first track I heard, which made a real impact on me, is Duran Duran the Reflex.
Amazing.
Yeah. I was 12 years old and I thought, wow, this is so awesome. It's something like that. I think I was 12, something like that. I was, wow, this is fantastic. I was maybe like 12, 13, those ages. And then I discovered, but after that, of course, Depeche Mode, Cure. So I was really into after punk and new wave, and but I was already 17, 18, something like that.
Nice.
And then I started to go to the club scene was very, very, very strong in Belgium in the 90s, and so I went to the first club in 1990, and I had a very strong connection directly with the underground electronic dance music they were playing there, which was covering almost everything from Rhythm is a Dancer from Snap to much more underground stuff. But it was really a new world for me, and I really love it. At the same time, I was still playing in a rock and roll band as a guitar player and keyboard player, but when I start to hear this song, I thought, okay, this is so cool. It's like Pink Floyd, but with a beat, and I was like, wow, I love it. And especially after, a few years after, trance was very, very strong in Belgium, but the really good quality trance before it became a bit cheesy, end of the 19th, beginning of 2000, something like that. So so that's my path more or less. But yeah, Duran Duran was a major punch in my face when I listened to this Reflex.
Totally. And before we get into your exposure to like underground music, were you at all interested in what goes on beyond the music? Were you curious about how, Duran Duran was making their music as a band? Were you a kid who was going to the record stores as a kid just to kind of go around and to listen to what was there? Did you have this curiosity from an early age?
Well, so not really. But I was not buying vinyls. I think the only vinyls I bought with my parents were scoring music, from Danny Elfman, from James Bond or that kind of things. But that's all. It was hard to go into that kind of direction. My parents were. I love my parents, and I'm not trying to play. What's that name of the movie with Robin Williams, with the guy who can't do his career as a theater guy?
Good Will Hunting?
No, with the poets, something.
Oh, Dead Poet Society?
Yeah, exactly.
Dead
Poet Society. So I'm not going into I'm not going into that direction. But to be honest, my parents were not at all into opening doors and letting me, buy stuff which were not really connected to the world we had usually at our place. So I didn't buy any vinyls. When I start to buy vinyls, when I start my career as Polder, really. I bought a few before, but that was just like maybe I had a collection of 50 vinyls, something like that. But I was already going to studio with the rock and roll bands where I was playing. So I was starting to be interested with the music production. And the first keyboard I bought when I was 18, because also one thing, back in the days, music technology was very expensive. It's not like today where you can buy enough equipment. I don't know, you start with $2,000 and you can do already very, very good stuff. Back in the days, you didn't have a keyboard, a synthesizer for $2,000. It was 3,000, 4,000. A good sampler was super expensive. And so this is the reason I started later when I could afford this, because also it was not easy to get equipment and to start to produce at your place when you didn't have the money for that. So whatever. I don't know if I answer completely your question, but
no, it's awesome. And so one thing I'm curious about was your kind of entrance into underground music. Was it like natural? You're just surrounded, you're in the studio working on your rock and roll music, getting exposed to new music technology, getting comfortable with new technology, and you kind of started to express your musical creativity more towards electronic music?
Yeah, definitely. And I regret I didn't start earlier, because I had so much pleasure to experiment with sequencer and this is, I mean, this is so cool to get the tools to create your own music and start to that was the hard part for me, because I mean, to compose was not, I mean, to compose is still is still not easy, but I mean, behind the keyboard, I'm okay, because I did 7 years at music school, going to the conservatorium and stuff like that, and so.
Oh, nice.
But the technical side was super complicated. But it was such a pleasure to experiment with those sounds, super rich and I mean, opening new doors. I mean, I still remember, just to let you know, when I was at the music school as a trumpet player, and I was practicing guitar and trumpet. The director of the music school, one of the director, bought a Yamaha DX7, and so we had a DX7 at the music school. And when I heard the sound for the first time, I was blown away. I was thinking, this is massive. You know, the ability to tweak a sound and to go everywhere you want to go. It's mind-blowing, and it's still mind-blowing for me. So I didn't lose the vibe I get when I do this. So I'm still really amazed.
Yeah.
Really amazed.
Oh, super cool. Now, as you're kind of experimenting with the music, experimenting with new music technology, so that's on the production side, but on like the dance music culture side of things, are you also going out, as you're getting more into the electronic music, going out and exploring the Belgium scene?
Yeah, definitely. A lot.
So you are our first guest from Belgium, and I was wondering if you can kind of give us share some stories or a little lesson about what was going on in Belgium when you started to go out and explore the scene.
Okay, well, okay, so I don't know what was going on exactly in eight of the 80s and beginning of the 90s. I saw that many big cities also had a very strong club culture, but Belgium was very, very, very special, because I think it's the country where you get the most dance club per people living in this country. So you've got many dance clubs. It's crazy, especially in the north part of the country, the Flemish side. And so honestly, I used so from especially when I was 20, from my 22 till my 12, 27, during 4 or 5 years, I was going out sometimes almost every day. It was only the Tuesday. The clubs were closed on Tuesday, but you could go out every day, every night and every day also, because you had many after clubs. And the Belgian scene was super rich, very good music, good DJs, and very good clubs. And honestly, we were going out on Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday during the day, Monday night, and Tuesday we were resting.
It's and so when is this how you through this scene, is this how you eventually would meet one of your earliest producing partners, CP?
Yeah, well, I was already so to go back on what you were saying. I was first definitely a clubber,
Oh, cool,
definitely.
cool.
So I love to go to the clubs. I love to listen to the music. I love the connection with the people. It was really interesting because at that time there was really a house nation in Belgium. You were going to a club on a Friday, you were meeting people, then going to the club on another club on Saturday, because each clubs are at the best day. So you were going to I don't know, to a Café Local on Thursday, Café d'Anvers on Friday, then La Roca on Saturday and Sunday, at the Villa. Extreme was a club called, on Monday it was a club called Extreme. And you were meeting the people, you met on the Thursday, on the Friday, on the Saturday. Everybody was moving like a tribe, and it was really a house nation. And so I was really a clubber with all that scene. And when I start to make music, I thought, okay, I need to connect with a DJ, because I don't have that experience. Okay, I got the experience of the clubber, but I don't have the experience from a DJ, which is a real knowledge, and I don't have those skills. So this is the reason I contacted CP. Was running a record store in Brussels, very big one. And we started the connection there, and then I went to see him. He was playing much more in the south part, and I was going out much more in the north. So I went to see his club called Palladium back in the days.
Palladium?
But yeah, it was a big club, not so far from here actually, which is close, unfortunately, like so many clubs in Belgium. And beginning of 2000, the police started to shut down many places. So
that's really interesting. Now, as a clubber, was there a really it sounds like there's a really strong local national Belgium scene, but were also international DJs coming and touring and coming through?
No, not really.
Oh, that's cool.
At that time, there were no international. That was very rare, very rare. The DJ, most of the time also you had one DJ for the night. Like we were going on a Sunday to a club called La Roca, and the DJ there, Marco, was playing from 10 p.m. sometimes till noon, alone. Yeah. And when you had a very special event like New Year's Eve or something like that, then you had maybe 2-3 DJs, but that was very special. And from time to time, you would have a foreign DJ. Like I saw Lisan Elias, or maybe Sven Veit would come, or some of the Pioneer. But it was the culture of foreign DJ was not there. Definitely not.
So you said Marco was one of these kind of local legends that would play at the club. I love just doing research for myself and nerding out on the history of different scenes. So who were some of the Belgium national heroes when it comes to DJing during this time?
where you had very, I mean, so I was going to Boccaccio. You had Olivier Peters, who was very, very good. And then I went to Extreme, where you had the beginnings of the label Bonsai there. So you had a Fly, Mike from Push, and all those guys playing, but it was really
hard
really
sound.
hard music, which I like. Yeah, it was interesting, but a bit not exactly the sound I was really waiting for. Even if the quality was there, I was looking for something different. And then they opened this very good club called At the Villa. And there you had already Marco from La Rocca was playing there, and Vince and Johan, and yeah, then you had Fifi, also a legend from the Extreme on Monday, was playing much more dark, the beginning of dark progressive. And John Digweed, I think the first gig of John Digweed was there actually. It was in 2000, something like that. So before we met actually, so I went to listen to him, and it was the first step of the foreign DJs coming to Belgium, but really the baby step, not that much. And John came to that club Extreme where Fifi was playing. And so yeah, I had many names in my mind, and those guys really influenced me, and they were good, very, very good.
You know, my mind is kind of like blown right now because I have Discogs right here, and it says that Apollo Vibes was released in 2001.
Yeah.
So my question is, bro, how do you go from in the year 2000 seeing John Digweed just as a clubber to the next year you produce Apollo Vibes and it leads off GU19? Like, to me, that just is insane. And was that your first release?
Yeah, so as Polder, it was the first release, yeah. And it's
so
funny
crazy.
because I was in the club with John, and we were like, I remember we went. He was playing on a Monday, so it was a tough day. So we went there to finally. We were hesitating, even if we loved John, we were like, okay, but we've got to work on Tuesday or something like that. So finally we went there, and I was in the club, and John was waiting to play, and I was like 3 meters from him. And I didn't know that 1 year after I would meet him and sign with him. So it was it was it was funny.
Did you feel like you know, when it comes to producing the music, did you feel like your past experience and your past knowledge with your rock and roll band and everything, did that help you in the studio? Or like, what, you know, how comfortable were you producing to just, you know, your first release be one of the songs that people still talk about legendary status today?
Well, I guess it's it's a tough question. It's a tough question actually, because I thought for some years that it was cool to have that, I mean, music experience and culture, but at the same time it was also a bit tricky in more tech music and electronic music, and especially for the club music, and not the dance club music, not the electronic music in general, where sometimes for years and years it was like quick melodies, you know, down on a very small pattern. So if you were going too melodic, you were going out of the sketch of the electronic dance music, which is something we changed totally today when you listen to the electronic music, which is super melodic. So but back in the days, I think that someone like Stefan Bodzin coming with a keyboard and in 1990, the club audience would have been like that, and what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So and one of my problem in the beginning was trying to be simple with the melodies, not too complex, because it didn't work. Today you can be complex, and it's not I mean, I'm not pretending that my music is complex at all. It's not what I try to express. But it's still a fact that today being melodic is not a problem at all. You can be very melodic in your production, and people we get used to easily. But back in the days, if it was so melodic, if you had something more complex than a 4-bar melodies, you were not really. So my experience was a positive and bad thing at the same time.
Yeah, totally. And wow, do you think this is a should we put on the Apollo Vibes mix that was just released right now?
Yeah, sure.
And you know, before we start, you shared an amazing story with me because in this new remix package, the remixes are awesome. I actually did a whole live stream just dedicated to the remixes because I was so excited to hear them. But on the remixes, I'm pulling them up right now, you know, the Forgotten Original Mix, Polder and CP, Apollo Vibes, the Forgotten Original Mix. But you told me that the word forgotten is a little confusing in there because actually the original song, there's a funny story behind it. And I was hoping you could share with the viewers.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, this is the original. This is so the release on the package. The 4-track is the real original mix, like it was released on vinyl in 2001, and like it was opening the Global Underground of John Digweed, also the Los Angeles. So, but then after the track was not anymore available on Bedrock, and so for years and years they had on the catalog the John Debo as the original mix, and so it was really confusing. So it's cool that it's out again with the real original version, and I love the John Debo remix, which is super cool. All the remixes were great also at that time with the Young American Primitives. Also, I was super blown away when I knew also that Young American Primitives was doing a remix, because I knew their track from Northern Exposure, from Sasha and John and stuff like that. So yeah, this is now the real original mix, so it's not forgotten or lost at all. It's the real original version, and I think with many versions, because I think John asked us to redo also the mix for the Global Underground, and then in between the first track I sent and the last version, I think also there was 4 or 5 different versions. And before I started the track with CP, also I had like 20 versions of that track, something like that. So, but now that's the real one, the one which was on vinyl and on the Global Underground, which is out now.
Yeah, well, it's cool, and also, you know, it's cool to hear how John Debo raps into this, because he's a huge supporter of the page, and he's become a friend of mine, and it's just cool to see how all these worlds collide and how intimate it seems like the scene was back then, where, like, you know, you get connected with someone like John, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at the center of this global scene that's actually smaller than you think.
Yeah, true. And it's cool because I think so. CP was organizing the release of the 2022 remixes with Bedrock, and some of the parts were missing of the original to do the remixes. And so he asked to John Debo if he still had the pack from 2001, and he still had all the parts, which is amazing. So thanks to John Debo, we could send it to Peter Dundov and Tara Brooks and Kainda. So otherwise, we didn't have all the parts, because I'm super bad by keeping stuff. So and CP, even if he's super good at this, he didn't have everything. We had the vocals, we had a few synth, but not everything. But John Debo, saved the day.
Yeah,
so thank you, John.
I'm excited to share this story with him. I wonder if he's watching right now, but he's going to be so stoked. And he was so stoked when I was talking to him about you joining the stream. So that's awesome. Before we dive into the track, was it exciting to have, you know, the remixes come out again? And did you enjoy everyone's interpretation of your track that you made?
Yeah. It's It's super cool and a bit okay, not trying to be too emotional, but it's cool to see that today this track is considered as a classic, and you never know when you do a track if it will stand the test of time, and we had so many good moments with that track, you know. To sign on Bedrock was like I remember Cedric was coming to the studio, and he was coming with Moonface tracks and Futurized Fears, I think, from Moonface, like that super creepy melody and that ton 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 ton, and he was saying, yeah, if Bedrock is so great, and we will never sign on that label, and I said, no, we'll never know. But I was not too confident, but why not? We give a shot. But then we signed with Bedrock. We were blown away. Then we were opening the Global Underground of John Digweed. We were totally blown away. And then to see that track becoming like some kind of classic in the genre was really cool, because it's not in your hands. It's the audience which decides, and with a big humble attitude. I'm so grateful for this, because yeah, it's really cool to see the reactions. And then for the remix, I really love all of it. They went into new area with a new sound design, like you know, like when you take archaeological stuff and you brush them, you know, and it's shining again, you know, into the daylight, and it's what they did, and they did, all of them, a very great job. So it's a real pleasure, and to see again the comments, it's cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's time to play the track. I'll play the track. Hopefully you guys can all hear it, and if there's any stories or anything that you want to provide while going on, we'll be able to hear you and the track at the same time. So first, I'm gonna try and get this going right here. Dude, this is like so cool for me personally, just to be able to listen to this track with you, because it is really, when my cousin Ned, I was telling you, Ned Shepard and Sultan, they were the ones who turned me on to this. One of the first ones I listened to, I was living in Los Angeles, cool. And so I'm like, oh, John Digweed in Los Angeles, I'll put this one in. That track comes on, bro, and I'm like, what is this? In essence, that track was like my introduction to this entire world of progressive house and what this means to people around the world. So I couldn't think of a better track to leave a better first impression for me, because it just had me hooked. So that's my little story with it. We're gonna get it going right now, and you can let me know if you hear it on your end. Oh, wait. Okay. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yo, guys, chat. One's in the chat. If you guys can hear it, I'm gonna get... Wow.
I love the song.
We're predicting third stage shutdown at 11 minutes 42 seconds.
Coming through clear?
Yeah, it's dropping sometime, but I can hear it. Right, but yeah.
One, Fluid Orbit is wondering if how the bass line was made. I'm not sure if you want to get into the technicals of this, but people love learning the stories behind these tracks.
Yeah, sure. So I think the track, when I started to produce it, came the original, the first idea which came was the bass, and I think I did this with Novation Bass Station, something like that.
We're predicting third stage.
I had a lot of Novation stuff back in the days, and after the with the LFO, and I was modulating the LFO, the frequency and stuff like that. It's a supernova from Novation also.
So cool.
And for the drums, it was much more complex because I was struggling with drums at that time. It was not my best skills. So I was struggling a lot to try to get the kick, to get the energy. So, but yeah, the bass first, then the lead from the bass station. And after, I think the pads were coming from a cork, but maybe 01W, something like that. And the idea of the voice, it's if you bring the voice from the Apollo mission in the studio. We were trying to find some vocals, and then when we listened to that, I was like, wow, that's awesome. But we had the whole recording of the Apollo mission, so we spent hours and hours trying to find the right part and to make the cut. Yeah, but that bass was very rock and roll for me.
It's so cool too. It's like, what was the initial inspiration for even going through the Apollo mission's transcripts? Like, that's such an interesting idea to me.
I don't know. We were looking for a cappella, and yeah, Cedric came with that whole recording, and we thought, okay, that fits very well in the track. And then I thought, okay, we're gonna call this Apollo Vibes. I like the title. And then we stuck on this, and but the hardest part, like I said, was to try to find something in the whole recording, the vocal recording, which fit into the track. So, but then we had this is Apollo Control.
Oh, it's so cool. Now, a question I'm always so curious about, because I'm like, I don't know, I'm still so new to this, man. Like, I didn't know about this world like 2 years ago even. And so I nerd out on Global Undergrounds. And what was the process like of how did this track made it to John's album? Do you create the track and then send it to him? And he was like, not only do I want this on Bedrock, but I also want to kick off my compilation with this? Or was it a complete surprise to you and you just heard it when it came out? Like, how did that go?
It was a surprise because first it was already a surprise that John signed the track, because we gave him a demo CD, and we were thinking, okay, maybe he will say I like the track, and there was 4 tracks on the CD, and we thought, okay, maybe he's gonna like one track, or maybe none of the tracks, you never know. And then 3 days after, he sent a fax, I think, something like that, because we were in end of 2000. So he sent a fax with I want to sign 2 tracks, and then the day after, I want to sign everything. And we were like, what? Are you sure? I've got a story after for you. And so we were already blown away to sign on the label, and then the label came back to us saying, okay, John would like to use the track for the Global Underground. And we thought, what? But then they said he wanted to use the track as the opening track, which was back in the days, opening a track for Global Underground was like, wow, it was like the big deal, and everybody was dreaming about this. So we went from surprise to surprise all the time. It was like, it was a never-ending good moments phase. And so because of that, he asked to rebuild the track a little to make it. He had already, I think, the mix is in his mind, and he wanted the track a bit longer so he could place it with Love in Traffic from Satoshi Tomi on the best way. So we had to rework a little the track, and I think we did many changes before we had the final version for Global Underground. And yeah, it was cool.
So cool. And I'm guessing were you already a fan of the Global Underground series?
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you have a favorite mix from that series without GU19 being mentioned?
Global Underground at that time was the big thing. It was super crazy to be on that compilation. It was like being with the best tracks out at the moment, and you had definitely the feeling that there was a before and an after being on the Global Underground. And I loved many of the Global Underground, Sasha, John, Nick, massive stuffs, and the Global Underground, the Los Angeles one is really mind-blowing. I mean, they are all good, but it's such an honor to be on such a good mix, which is like iconic from the beginning of 2000. And I think that year, John was best DJ. He won the DJ Mag Best DJ award, and I think it was everything was logical. Made one of the best. And so being on Global Underground at the time, it was massive.
So, this is one of your first tracks, and you even yourself expressed like shock that John wanted to include the track or whatever. You're like, are you sure you want to sign this? How crazy was it to have then this track come out and you're like, oh shit, this is like my career. Like now I gotta make another, you know what I mean? Like, was it kind of like one moment you were unsure and then the next moment you were like, oh my gosh, like I have to go all out on this?
Yeah. Well, it was very surprising because comparing to the days, to the actual day where you get all the social media and everything was more slow. When you were building a career, then you had the bags were coming step by step, but we felt the difference so much. Like after that, I started to get requests to play, and I started to see the charts, and people from Asia asking me to go, and I was like, wow, this is massive, because directly I stepped into something really big at that time. The reputation of John was so big already in 2000, and the reputation of the label Bedrock was probably one of the biggest labels 2001. So yeah, it was definitely I felt like before and after. But one of the most surprising story is so we received those mails from John asking to sign the Apollo Vibes, and from the label company we start to go into the contract and stuff like that. And John was doing the parties at Heaven in London every first day of the month, something like that. Once a month on first day there was a Bedrock party at Heaven, and CP was going a lot. This is how you get in touch with John. And so I said to him, okay, I'm gonna go with you this time, and we're gonna go to see John together. And I still see myself. So we are in this club, and the DJ booth was like up on some kind of mezzanine, and then you had the floor with the clubber downstairs. So we go to the stairs. I go to see John. I say hello to him, and I say, you want? I'm Paul Polder. You want? No, I don't think I said I'm Paul Polder. I said, you want to sign a track of I did Apollo Vibes, and he said, no, I don't want to sign any track like that. And I said, what? And at that moment, I was feeling so ashamed, and I was seeing myself jumping in the river in London, because I thought, okay, I'm just a fool. I thought for some time that guy would sign me, and he doesn't want to. And then he started to laugh. And don't do jokes like that, please.
yeah, you're messing with my life, bro. Exactly. It's not that funny.
I'm gonna have a heart attack. So yeah, but yeah, John likes to laugh. He's
yeah, that is so funny, because to me he's such like a mysterious figure. Like he has this whole like aura around him. But talking to Nick, talking to you, it seems like he has like a really funny sense of humor.
Yeah, he likes to do jokes. Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. And this kind of kicks off a cool relationship with Bedrock. I see 2002, 1 year later. Enter the Rhythm and Wax comes out.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm still very. I love both tracks, but Wax is still a track I really like to listen to because we were trying really to go deep at that time with the sound design, something which maybe I lost a little after for some reason. But at that time with Wax, we were trying really to go into very deep sound design, and I'm really proud of Wax. And Enter the Rhythm was super cool with Sandra Ferretti singing on it, which would be later on my album. But yeah, the second release was super quick after Apollo Vibe, 1 year, like you said, something like that.
It's really cool. And then, you know, another question I have is, you are obviously producing. Were you always like a DJ alongside producer, or did DJing come later on, or what's the story with that?
Yeah, it came later on. Uh, back in 2001, when you were a music producer, you were directly a DJ too, and so you were getting requests not to play live because I mean, to play live in the club in 2001 was super complex. It was, if you were doing a live, it was playback with a singer or something like that, but you couldn't go there with your equipment. The club were not made for that, and the logistic side was not prepared. So everybody was asking you to play as a DJ, and which I started. I loved the job, but for some years I was struggling. I was like, and it was hard with vinyl and everything. And I remember one of my first party in London. I was not so experienced, and I came with my box of vinyl, and I started to play, and people were jumping on the floor, and it was a wooden floor, and the needles was jumping.
Oh no, yeah.
You know? So it was already tough to make a good mix, but you are losing the mix, blah, 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 and so people were looking at you. But like my friend CP can get it back with one hand without headphones, he can get it back. But for me, it was like, oh. And so for years, and it was like not easy. Then the digital came, and I mean, with the more and more gigs and the experience, I started to develop the connection with the crowd, and try to get, which helps you as a DJ to be interesting for the audience. And some guys have this very naturally. I'm thinking about Hernan Cataneo, John, CP, all those guys. It's in their blood, it's in their DNA. But for me, I had to learn this and to get the skills. But it's today I really love to play as a DJ. It's a real pleasure, and I mean now it's 20 years, so I've got some experience, but no, it was not easy at the beginning. It was not easy.
Do you, as a DJ, you know, the culture of underground music and club culture and everything is so different around the world, you know, depending on where you are. And I love hearing stories. Like, I got to talk to Nick and Hernan about like the Argentina scene and learning how that is so different from, let's say, like the UK scene or the USA scene. Do you have like a favorite place that you like to perform? Or not a favorite place, but do you get, you know, if you have something on the schedule coming up, do you get extra excited for specific gigs?
Well, every gigs, I've been lucky to almost. I loved almost every gig, so it's been always already a great pleasure to play for an audience, because every time I went somewhere to play, it was on the request of the club or promoter, and we never did really research. I never worked really with a manager who was proposing me as a DJ, so it was always a direct request, and I've been always amazed to get the chance to have that kind of experience. So and I was lucky to play in many countries and continents. So that was super cool. But then there is a place, but many DJ who are playing that kind of genres I play, which is like between melodic prog stuff and house with a house feeling. They will tell you the same. Argentina is really, really, really special, and Buenos Aires is like I mean, from the first time I played there for the first time, I think it was in 2005, 2006, and I've been blown away. I've been blown away. The audience is like so enthusiastic, so into the music. People go to dance. They are there to experience, you know, and they let you go into directions where maybe you can't go that easily in some other places. So yeah, Argentina is really awesome. But then I had so many good experience in Budapest, in Amsterdam, in Belgium also, in Singapore, in Tokyo. I had the chance to play in some amazing clubs. It's a great crowd also, but Argentina is very, 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 very special. Very special.
It's cool. Can I go into a few viewer questions before we continue on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. First of all, Jurassic Trance wants to say, great guest mix on transitions recently, by the way. I'm so excited to listen to it, but everyone's, when I announced this, everyone's like, listen to the transitions mix, listen to the transition mix. Everybody really had enjoyed it.
That's cool. Thank you. Yeah, I've been really surprised, and I'm not a lot on social network for the moment, but I receive message on WhatsApp from guys, very good friends with Hernan and really deep music followers, and saying, yeah, this guest mix is so great, and this is so cool because we didn't have that much of time to do it. We had like between the moment we had the information we had to make it and to deliver, it was like 2 weeks. And you want to spend more times on the transitions normally, because I remember when I did the first transition for the release of my album on Bedrock, I think I spent a month, and I composed tracks especially for the occasion and stuff like that. It was deep into the. But it's really cool to see the feedback for the last one. It's super cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to listen to it. Another question from Fluid Orbit, another guy who watches every week. Thank you so much, Fluid. Polder did a remix of Space Maneuvers Part 3, and I was wondering what John Graham was like to work with and how that remix came about. John Graham to me is like, oh my gosh, anything he touches is gold.
Well, actually, we didn't work together. I received the parts from the label, and then we did the chance to meet each other in Miami a few times, and a super cool guy with some very good moments during those parties. But I didn't have the chance to work with him in studio, unfortunately, and I just received the parts. And also, I think the deadline was super short for that remix, but I've been blown away to see the reactions and to see him opening Hernan Cataneo Renaissance CD and stuff like that. It was,
Yeah, so cool. Okay.
He's still playing it actually. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Now, this is one question that everyone wanted to point out to me, because I'm like, as I said, I'm new to this. I don't know every song. I don't know the whole catalog. And everyone's like, dude, Apollo Vibes is great, but you gotta check out Dust. And people love this track, Dust. And so Simon Goldstone was wondering, what was the influence behind that track?
I don't remember. I remember I started the track and I wanted to make a breakbeat track because the original is breakbeat, and it's also how can I explain? Coming from a wide genre of music. I don't like to be stuck into one sound. So this is the reason I'm maybe sometimes it's a bit confusing for the people, because I'm going to one direction, then another one, and another one, and another one. So it's like experimenting a little bit. But for Dust, I was with that breakbeat track, and then those vocals were fitting perfectly. So I start the track, and then I show it to CP, and then I drop it. And he came back a few months after. I said, "But what did you do with that track? It was so awesome." And I said, "No, but forget about it. We're gonna do something else." And he said, "No, we've got to do this. We've got to do this." So we went back into the track, and I remember I went to Bedrock again, to a Bedrock party, and the day after we went to John Hotel's room, and we came with the track, and we played the track, and he loved it, and he signed it directly, and I think we ended up in the top 20 dance UK, something like that, with that track. So which was massive, with super good remixes also, a bunch of very, very good remixes played by Sasha and very big DJs. But yeah, the original idea was to make a breakbeat track, a bit emotional, with vocals, and because I'm really coming from the trance scene, from the 90s trance scene. This is where I started to get my first big emotion on the dance floor, like Annalyn and Kane and all those guys, and it was mind blowing for me.
Yeah, so cool. And then one last question about these specific tracks is from World Greya, and they were wondering, how did you come up with Sandra Ferretti for Protected, one of my absolute faves of your track? What's the story behind it? I'm like really jogging your memory. I'm sorry.
No. It's cool. And it's super cool because Sandra he was living in Belgium. So, and we did some tracks together, and unfortunately after we didn't see each other that much. And I think she's now in politics in Belgium, and
oh wow,
she's very, very talented. She's doing great lyrics, and great voice too. And for Protected, it went very quickly. She came to my studio in Brussels, 80 Hertz, and we recorded the voice in one take, I think. And I wanted to make that very minimal track. So there is not that much. There is just mainly the vocal, the beat, and a few elements. Minimal was not very famous at that time, but yeah, because at that moment, music was really overproduced sometimes, and for that track I was to make it super simple, and I still love that track. It had also very good remixes. One of them is the Fretwell, I think, and on Modo Records, Mass Collective also did a very good remix of the track. So yeah, great producer on the project.
so cool. And so one thing I'm wondering, kind of around the same idea, is, and maybe you were touching a little bit on it before, but I've never seen, and you can like correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just my experience, I've never seen like Bedrock release an album that's just like an album of original productions, like not like compiled and mixed, not a compilation. What was that experience like of getting like that much space to make all these different tracks? And how did, because everybody's like, you got to listen to Zero Gold. You've got to listen to Zero Gold. And I'm like, I'm so excited to. But is making an album a different experience than, coming up with a EP or a LP? Or is it just kind of the same process of creating one song and then moving to the next song? Or did you have like a holistic vision for this whole thing?
But yeah, for me it was like it was a big challenge because Bedrock never did an album before, so I had a huge responsibility on my shoulder, and to make an album in electronic music, like you said, full production album, is like a real challenge. And at the same time, I had also the kind of compilation, because you were speaking about influences in the first minute of the show. One of the biggest influence for me is also Northern Exposure from Sacha and Digweed. It changed my mind. When I heard that compilation, I thought I had already a high respect for DJ, but when I heard this compilation, I thought, man, this is so great to use layering with tracks like that and to build a whole story of 1 hour. It's impressive. And at that time, I remember it was very clever because they had a map mix on the cover, so you could see which track was mixed with which one, and you could see
Oh, I
the
love
layering.
looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they like overlap with each other. It's so awesome. It's like the essence of the magic of it. They like put it on paper.
Yeah, and then you realize after, when you listen the track alone and the combination of two tracks together, how much it's really a creative work to put two tracks together and to find a right combination. So that compilation was, mind blowing for me. So I had that kind of idea in my mind to try to make something like with a structure during the whole album, and at the same time to find different genres for each track, to not try to be repetitive. So maybe not always dance floor, but sometimes a bit more breakbeat, because I've got influences also like Massive Attack or dub, or it's going to different style. And it was not really easy. And I've been lucky because I had the chance to work with Sandra Ferretti, you were speaking about, and Shelley Harlan, and then Kirsty Okshaw, who came into the project, and she was already a big star with It's Gonna Be a Fine Day Today. And so to have her on board, it was magic. So I had the chance to work with those amazing talents. But I remember one time I was in London and showing some of the tracks to John, and but I had like a bunch of idea, and I show him everything, and he said, yeah, I like that, but I don't like that. I like that, I don't like that. And it was positive, but also negative at the same time. And he said to me at the end, okay, what you gonna do now? He was testing me a little. And I said, no worries. I take all the feedbacks and I go back into the studio. But it was hard. And I didn't want also to make an album of 10 club tracks, which is maybe a bit presumptuous. It was maybe too ambitious to do that kind of thing. Would have been more easy to make 10 club tracks and that's it, and then you get 10, but I was trying to explore different dimensions, sonic dimensions. So it seems that quite a bunch of people like the project, so I'm proud of it. But it's my first album. I just regret I didn't do a second and a third, so maybe I will change this in the past. But
please do.
You always try to fix the mistakes of the first project into the second one and the third one. So, but it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit now, because one thing I'm always really curious about is the rapid progression of both producing technology and DJing technology, kind of right when you were first, coming out with your first releases, right? What was that like for you? Was there a change from analog to digital? Did you find yourself having to continuously learn new things or relearn how to do something you mastered in analog but had to do in digital? Or was it kind of natural to you, or did you just find a flow, or did you come late enough where it was all pretty much digital at that point?
It's a good question. It's a good one because I will go back to what I was talking about before when I was speaking about John Digweed or Hernan Cataneo or my partner CP. Those guys, they really have for me, it's in their blood. They know which track they're gonna play after the first one, and it's not really it's much more a feeling than something mathematic, you know. And for me, I can't really play like this because I'm too melodic with my style. So back in the days when I was playing with vinyl, it was a pain in the ass because okay, you had the BPM of the track with the key, but as soon as you were pitching with the analog pitch, you were changing the pitch, and then you if you didn't label everything with the key, it was a mess to play in key because this was the big revolution for me. It's when I had the possibility to do key mixing. It changed everything.
Oh, wow.
And it changed when Pioneer start to use the master tempo button, which is not it's working better today. At the time it was not very efficient, but it was still a big revolution because you could lock the key of the track, and then all my tracks were put together by key. So I had all my A minor, C minor, D minor, whatever, D sharp, blah blah blah. And the way I play, I try to keep the rhythm and the energy on the dance floor, but it's also directly the key mixing. I love to, if I don't play with the same key, I'm gonna make a chord with a fifth or a seven or something like that, but it's gonna be the key will be directly on the process, directly. So yeah, when I had the possibility to play with a digital system, first the Pioneer, then with Ableton Live, then back to Pioneer, no, it was a huge difference for me, big difference.
It's really cool to hear, and I know it's just such a unique thing that right when this music was kind of exploding, at least this era that I cover, it's like it was exploding with great music. It was exploding with crazy new technology. It's just like a revolution across the board. It's really cool. And
but it's funny because now you can when you are on a Pioneer system, the key tracking will be one of the first option you can activate. So your CD player will show you okay, this track is in the same key. This track could fit with your mix, with your mixing key. And I know that now many DJs are doing key mixing, but back in the days when I was playing, there were not so many DJs doing that kind of research, you know, so deep into trying to have a real melodic connection between the tracks. And now today it's more easy and everybody can do it, but it's interesting because it's giving you the opportunity to make very cool layering. So
it's cool, you know. So you're a DJ, you're a producer, and you're also a record label owner. So
yeah.
cool to me. How did Rework come to be?
So I started WeWork 10 years ago, and we launched it with a track called Motel. It was very cool start because John Digweed played it, Nick Warren played it, Hernan Cataneo played it, so it was really on many charts and DJ lists. And but for me also it was the idea to show some new talents, you know, guys who are starting their career, struggling a little. So I receive a lot of demo. It's not always easy because it's a small structure, and we release just a couple of tracks, 3 tracks per year maximum. Last year we've been very slow, but I've been unfortunately not in a good health to work on it properly. So it's cool to be on that side also of the, you know, of this world, to see how label is working, and to try to be an open door, you know, for new talents and a new producer. And we've got the chance to work with Proton, which is a very cool company, and they pay every artist on time and stuff like that. So we really like it, and we try to make it as honest as we can, which is not easy always in that business. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to have that project also.
Well, it's really inspiring for me to see, you know, DJs. It's like people like John helped you out when you were breaking through. And then I love to see people like you and Hernan shine a light on the next generation, like fulfilling that role now and shining the light on the new upcoming talent. Because this is progressive music. This is about moving forward. And it's really cool to me. So I just want to give you kudos for that. That's awesome.
But we can see that the love and faith from the crowd for that music is not going away. You know, it's funny because people will tell you, okay, prog is dead. You know, everything is dead. CD is dead. Prog is dead. Vinyl is dead. You know, it seems like everybody wants to announce the end of something, but at the end, you know, prog is there. I mean, the progressive, because it's also difficult to define. Everybody, I guess, has his own definition of progressive. But if you speak about music a bit melodic with, I always say it's like Pink Floyd with a beat for the club. You know, it's like opening the doors of perception with melodies, with sound design, but at the same time you are on the club and you can dance or in festival. And you can see that Hernan is still playing with a massive audience. John is still there. Sasha is still there. Even maybe he's not calling himself a progressive DJ, but I mean that genre is not really. It's not disappearing. It's still there. And it's very, very, very strong. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I think the number one thing I've learned from this channel, speaking to DJs and producers like you, even more so, just speaking to the longtime fans around the world, is that, you know, progressive music, yes, it's a sound, but equally, it's a philosophy of looking at the music, and it's an approach to the music as well, a gradual progression with dips and ascensions, and I'm like, it just really, when I start to think about it like that it's so much more than just the sound and the structure, I'm like, oh my gosh, you can kind of apply this mindset to a lot of things. Like, and it's really cool. It's really cool to me.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a beautiful genre. I really like it, and I loved everything. But to see today that melodies are so strong and back again, and even some big labels are looking a bit into the trance prog, something like that. You know, you can see that. It's the melody. People thought at one moment that melodies would disappear. You know, when the minimal came out and the sound was a bit more cold, and but no, it was just a moment, but progressive is still there, and then it's rising up again. So
well, man, I mean, this conversation was really awesome. I just put in the chat, we have time for a few more questions, but oh, okay, I guess this is a cool one to kind of end on. Crying Wolves 666, that's an epic name, wants to know when you'll be playing in your home country again, when your next gig in Belgium will be.
Well, I hope I will play again in next year, because this year was a bit complex for me in terms of health, so I've got to recover, and then hopefully next year I will be able to play again. So I've been canceling many shows for the last months, especially in Argentina, and I feel so bad because I've been playing there every year since more than 15 years, something like that, and also in Belgium and different countries, also a lot in Budapest also to cancel. But hopefully next year I'm back behind the decks, and with some new tracks and some new production. So it's just a moment a bit more quiet, but
Yeah.
I'm not giving up.
No, it's awesome. And then one last one is Mogens Beltoff. I definitely didn't pronounce that right, but shout out to you. Just wants to know, how much time do you use to gather music for a DJ set?
Oh,
Is that your life pretty much? Just listening and listening and listening?
that's tough. It's the hardest part. I mean, preparation of a DJ set is a big part of the work, and this is the reason. Sometimes people think, okay, you get paid for 2 hours playing it in front of the audience, but that's not true. Or 4 hours. You had to prepare everything before, and you had to find the tracks, do the research, prepare your cue, your loops, your system of folders with all the tags and everything. So it's a long process, and but that's the key. If you miss that part, you won't go into a nice direction in the clubs or in the place where you're gonna play. So it's definitely necessary, but it takes time. It takes
Totally. Yeah.
And I buy everything. So I go to Beatport and some of a big shop, but also it's so complex because one of the back in the days, at the when it was the analog time, you were playing vinyls, you were going to the record store, and then the owner knew you, and he would prepare like a bunch of vinyls, and so you had already like a pre-listening, okay, he was giving you what you would be probably interested to, so you were,
and you trust them. It's like the same ears almost listening.
Exactly. So then you can do your own selection into a first selection, which is super cool.
Totally.
Today you don't have this anymore. You get to go deep into the digital store, and then also the problem is the digital store are working by genre, and then it's a problem because you don't want to play only one genre. So then you want to, and sometimes you are missing a track because you was maybe into an Afro house genre, and that day you didn't go really into Afro house and you skip it, and so it's too bad because you've got to go into like I don't know, a breakbeat, Afro house, deep house, melodic house, and techno, progressive house, techno, because sometimes I play deep techno. So you get to go into all those genres and try to find your tracks into into this. So it's it's a long task.
I mean, your fans are so loyal. First, I asked for more questions, and one person goes, "Oh, good. We just want to let Polder know how much we appreciate you." So I thought that was really nice. Yeah, I mean, your fans really love your music. It's awesome.
But it's a pleasure, and so it's always a pleasure to meet people who are connected to the music, and who sometimes like my music or enjoy my DJ set, and it's always a huge pleasure. When I started music, we were so amazed to play into the local bar next door. When I was in my first rock and roll band, and today I had the chance to play worldwide, and it's so cool, and I had the chance through that job to meet so many very, very cool people, and so it's a blessing. It's really a blessing.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for being so generous with your time. You joining this podcast from when I first listened to Apollo Vibes for the first time has been a dream of mine. So thank you so much for joining. I feel really privileged to have you here. And I mean, this is definitely like the most people I've had watching. So thank you to all your fans who tuned in. Thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, Ben, hopefully we can link in the future, but I wish you the best of luck with everything. And this was really special. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening. Huh?
Cheers. All right. I'll see you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a nice night. See ya.